to the Prezzo. So basically, we typically do this sort of thing as what we call a hands-on workshop, where we would come out and work together towards going through an exercise where you can kind of try before you buy. Or if you're an existing customer, try a feature before you activate when it comes to our ransomware resilience capability. So today it's going to be a bit more of a presentation style, and then I'll go through what the kind of lab looks like. So this is the ransomware protection workshop that we're going through now. We do have a number of other workshops that we do. Naturally, the NetApp data platform has a number of different capabilities, synonymous with, I guess, our primary capability of a data platform with storage services. So we have a user experience workshop, which talks about how we provide our storage management and data management services across a hybrid multi-cloud. The data protection and disaster recovery workshop leverages our snapshot and replication technology and also integration with third parties such as Commvault, VM, Rubrik, etc. But today we're focusing specifically on the cyber resiliency capability. All of these are built into the same operating system, same platform, same user experience. And typically what we hear from customers and prospects is that we'd like to see another capability, another feature. So we've got workshops around various different capabilities that we deliver with Accucom. So I'm going to start off with one of those typical, I guess, fluffy slides. It's not meant to scare anyone or anything like that. It's really just to kind of bring back to the surface why we care. Why do we care about cyber resilience? It's because it's the #1 thing that is exposing risk to our business, at least according to this particular study, which is the Allianz Risk Barometer. I like looking at this because if you're as old as I am and have as grey hairs as I do and been around the industry, I look at some of the other levels or some of the other, I guess, risks down the stack. And I think about natural catastrophes when, Brisbane was flooded back in 2011, or when Christchurch earthquake happened and things like that. That sort of disruption to IT, unlikely, but is a disruption nonetheless. And typically you think about disaster recovery, business continuity. When I think about other kind of scenarios of hardware failure in the past, we've overcome those with technologies like RAID. Our security posture, our cybersecurity posture is increasing with identity and access management and things like that. So really what's been brought to the forefront is that really the only true risks left now that are likely to impact you and impact you more frequently and have a significant impact of these cyber incidents. In fact, in Australia specifically, and these stats are a little old now, we're waiting for some new ones to be updated, but you can see a lot of attacks are happening and they're also going after the backups. So that's a big deal, right? And we're going to talk about the concept of immutability and air gapping and, what does it mean to have a recovery guarantee? How does one get a recovery guarantee? And you can see that 57% of compromising backups were also successful. So the attackers are getting smarter. They know they're not just to go after the primary workloads and bring you offline, or maybe steal information, or maybe just lock information. So you go to your backup and then you try to restore, and then that's gone as well. Then you're in a real world of strife at this point. So you can see 43% of affected data won't be recoverable, and the number of days to resolve a breach is increasing as we're trying to figure out what happened, when did it happen, how much data did they possibly get. And usually you only find out when it's too late, when you're already locked down and there's a significant amount of, upper hand from the attackers. So this is what a lot of you are struggling with out there, and our partners and our customers tell us that we facing not just the situation of our primary workloads being attacked and taken offline, but going also after the backups. And there's a lot of concern around, leveraging array-based snapshot capability, which we need to deliver on platinum recovery SLAs. But if those snapshots are the only copy we can recover from, what is securing those snapshots? What's making sure that, they are not deleted as part of an attack. And you can see the black hat there. Can I delete backups and snapshots? You're also struggling with weak backups. Backup in itself is always a nightmare in terms of, is it running successfully? Are we getting the secondary, tertiary copies offsite? Black hat hackers also think about, can I attack anything else? And another thing that we're struggling with is the poor detection of that unauthorized activity. So with all of this in mind, I'm going to make a bit of a bold statement here and probably underpin one of the reasons why we're here as NetApp talking about cyber resiliency, because this statement on the screen here, cybersecurity does not equal cyber resiliency. What we mean by this is that there's a lot of focus around network-centric security, firewalls, antivirus, etc., and just prevention alone is a big focus. Whereas we all know that cyber resiliency encompasses a lot of things, the people, processes, and technologies. But there's also another area of security that we want to bring to the surface. And I don't think I have a better way of explaining it than this. When we look at this slide, it says today's most common attackers. And I ask a lot of folks in the room, what is the word that appears the most on the screen here? And very quickly, they'll arrive at the word user. It's the word user that's appearing here. And I think back to those top 10 risks that we're dealing with and have been dealing with over the last, 30 years of evolving IT. And cyber incidents are now at the top. It's not because your firewall isn't good enough. It's not because your identity and access management isn't good enough. It's because people are people and they make honest mistakes, or they are malicious users who are intending to do malicious things. At this point now, we need to come up with solutions that protect us from ourselves. Effectively, humans have become the weakest link because everything else that we can fix with technology, we've effectively fixed with technology. So if you think about this now being the biggest threat and the deliverer of those cyber incidents, how do we attack this problem? And I almost feel like it is the final frontier. Everything else we can solve with technology, you can't solve people with technology because people will still need to do their jobs. We need to give them access. We also need to give them the boundaries to work within. So the way we see the problem is, here is your data, okay? In any scenario, on cloud, on-prem, in different clouds, in remote sites. And this is your attack surface area, because this is where you have your intellectual property and this is what has value to you. And that's what the attackers want. The attackers want to steal it, or they want to stop you from accessing it so that you pay them to regain access to it. That's the business model of these cyber incident attacks. So what do? Naturally, we start with cybersecurity and we put up perimeters. The first perimeter might be identity and access management, then a firewall, then intrusion detection and packet inspection, and then some other form of perimeter security. Now, we call this prevention. Perimeter technology's job is prevention, and 100% you should keep doing this and always do this. If you can prevent an attack from happening in the first place, then that's the best possible scenario, best possible outcome. On the other side of this scenario is backup and recovery technology. Now, I'm using tape to represent it. I know that tape's not really used anymore. It's whatever storage medium you want to use as your backup copy away from the production environment. But the challenge you have with backup technology is, well, it needs that copy to restore from first. Backups need to run and run successfully and finish on time. And we need to verify that that's a recoverable copy. And once you're hitting the restore button from backup, you're doing that because the damage is already done. Or, you're only kind of providing the value after the damage is done. If we're hitting restore, something's already happened. So we see a gap in the middle here. And the reason why there is a gap is if you think about today's most common attackers from the previous slide, we have the unknowingly compromised user account that has passed all of the perimeters, that has logged on successfully, probably multi-factor authenticated. And then you've also got, even worse, the rogue admin, who has the power to bypass all of the perimeters. And they're working next to the intellectual property in real time before the backup may even get a chance to start. So what we see is that the prevention, detection, and rapid recovery needs to happen in real time. It needs to happen at the source, okay? And how do we get real-time prevention, detection, and rapid recovery at the source? Well, we need to identify what the source is. When we look at data, it's probably one of those, you know, necessary evils, if you want to see it that way. If you follow the bouncing ball, all data lives on storage. Even if it's delivered as a service, even if it's in the cloud, you can have storage without data, but you can't have data without storage. So therefore, in this scenario, the storage service or capability or appliance needs to be part of the real-time security service to bolster cyber resiliency. And so how are we doing this as NetApp, as a data platform that has storage appliances, that has a storage operating system that coexists on premises and in cloud? We're doing this in a number of ways, but I'm going to call out three very key specific ones. The first one is part of the prevention story. How do we prevent a cyber attack from even starting on what we call the production surface area? When users and applications are making data in real time and writing data to storage, the storage is accepting these ones and zeros, and we can look at it and immediately see if it is an actual attack, if it is a cyber attack type like a BitLocker or CryptoLocker. We know the patterns of these attacks because we have an AI engine that's watching the data coming in. And this is built into the storage. This is not happening outside of the storage. This is built in. Now, if you're as old as I am, and you can cast your mind back probably over 25 years now, there used to be a popular file sharing service that university students were into and getting a lot of pirated material onto their file servers. And our customers would come to us and say, how do we stop that from happening? And we would say, well, we've got this thing called F policy or filter policy or file policy, which we can stop certain file extensions. And then they said, well, the students are getting smarter. They're renaming the .mp3s to something like .doc or .ppt, which is a file that you would allow on the storage. So we got smarter again and started reading the file signatures and saying, well, you're saying you're a Word document, but we see that you're actually an MP3 or an AVI or an MP4 masquerading as a Word document, so we'll block it. Why am I telling you this story? It's because that's the same technology today that is blocking cyber attacks that's running alongside the coexisting filtering policy. And the reason I'm telling you this is over the years, as we have continued to innovate our snapshot technology, our deduplication and storage efficiency technologies, we don't compromise our security. If anything, we keep improving it alongside these other innovations. So that filtering technology that's now driven by AI stopping these attacks is working in conjunction with all of our other storage capabilities. So that's step one, prevention. Then we get into the detection side. And this is where things get more sophisticated and complex. An obvious attack on the storage is an obvious attack. We can see it and we can stop it in real time, and we can put countermeasures in place. Users, on the other hand, are a bit more tricky, especially if you are the admin. So user and entity behavior analysis detects anomalies. And, you know, what's considered an anomaly? The AI-driven capability is looking at normal patterns of behavior. In fact, it's a pre-trained model over thousands and hundreds of thousands of iterations of different companies and users interacting with data that knows what typical behavior, human behavior, looks like. But you can also tweak the machine learning for your specific environment on what is typical user behavior analysis. And you can set false positives, and we'll talk about that. But what happens is if we detect this user behavior anomaly, we will trigger a countermeasure, and we call this an indelible and an immutable snapshot, which we've always had. We've had snapshots for compliance reasons that are immutable, indelible, and now these same compliance type snapshots lend themselves to becoming a ransomware recovery guaranteed recovery point. And it's one of the things that we offer, and still the first and only storage vendor to offer this capability. So if we're preventing attacks and then we're also detecting user behavior and triggering these countermeasures, what makes a snapshot indelible? and immutable? What if I am the rogue admin? I set up this environment and I have full control. We introduced multi-admin verification, which is also backed by multi-factor authentication, where no one single user has enough power to perform any kind of significant destructive activity. So this is very handy for a number of things, not just deleting snapshots or deleting snapshots that were made by our anti-ransomware engine. It's also if you want to stop users from creating new files, creating new folders, deleting folders. The multi-admin verification covers a wide number of different activities that you can now place additional control and role-based access and authorization. So what we're here to talk about today is the best practice to become completely cyber resilient in your organization. To plug that gap in the middle is to have both a network-centric and a data-centric view when it comes to security. And so you're probably thinking, well, what is data-centric security? There's a couple of things that we've spoken about there that we do in terms of detecting attacks and preventing attacks and recovering from attacks. But data-centric security also encompasses a large number of other capabilities. In fact, if you think about data being the core of your intellectual property and what you're making, and then the layers of security that come out from there, it's actually data security that's there first and foremost before all of the other layers. So data-centric security provides an additional step towards broader cyber resiliency. And these are some of the things that we like to bring to market. We do very boldly say that we're the world's most secure storage. That is backed by a number of different verified activities, such as SE Labs testing our capability. We have over 99% accuracy in detecting attacks, and I believe close to 100% recovery rate, and the ability to bring back that data, which is why we back by guarantees. And the built-in cyber resiliency is kind of your first line of defense, but it's also your last line of defense. If some attack somehow makes it through, remember we've got these tamper-proof guaranteed recovery points. So it can also be the place that you bring the data back from. So if I was to try to summarize the broad capability of NetApp ransomware resilience before we go into taking a look at what some of this looks like, it starts with that layer of being secure by design. We provide a data platform that's omnipresent on on-premises storage appliances as well as cloud storage. And we provide those tamper-proof snapshots, those locked snapshots. We spoke about multi-factor and multi-admin verification. We spoke about the file policy, F policy or filter policy, malicious blocking. And one of the things I'll talk about here is the dynamic authorization framework. What does that mean? If I tend to log in pretty much every day at 9 o'clock with my multi-factor authentication from a particular location, then that's my normal pattern and usage of behavior. But let's say I'm traveling for a moment and I'm overseas and I try to log into my environment. The system detects that I'm logging in successfully. The system detects that I have used the correct password, but I'm in a different location. So what it's going to do with the dynamic authorization framework is throw a couple of extra steps at me. Maybe I'll do another multi-factor authentication. Maybe I'll do a couple of extra things just to make sure it is me traveling. So we've got that kind of secure by design, and you can see data-centric security on box. This is built in, no extra license or anything. You buy our storage platform, you get this built in. The next layer is with the intelligence. So the AI-powered autonomous ransomware protection, that is built in, that's on box, and that is finding these attacks, reacting to them very fast, triggering that countermeasure, and performing that snap. And we are also the first to deliver this on block storage as well as the file storage because of our pre-trained model. This was no small feat of engineering. Now on the right there you see DII, Data Infrastructure Insights. This is where we have our SaaS-based offering that is looking at users interacting with data on-prem and in cloud, interacting with their environments, creating normal patterns of usage, and detecting attacks and detecting anomalies that will trigger the countermeasures. That's part of our infrastructure observability solution, Data Infrastructure Insights, which has the storage workload security built in. And we also provided this concept of complete air gapping with something we call our Cyber Vault. Now, this is a destination that you can set up as a one-way street with our SnapLock compliance capability, where data goes there and will never be moved, removed, deleted. It's immutable. It's for those organizations that need the ultimate in compliance and assurance for recovery. We provide that level of technology where you can utilize the concept of a cyber vault to store that data that cannot be deleted and must be retained. So all of this wraps up into this, what we call the single control plane for this comprehensive ransomware defense, and we call this NetApp ransomware resilience. And what you see there are the kind of 6 steps of what we call the cybersecurity framework from NIST. And I know in Australia we've got the Essential 8, and there are a number of factors of the Essential 8 that we immediately align to with these capabilities. But being a global organization and using the NIST framework helps to kind of show the complete cyber resilience capability through things like identify, protect, detect, respond, recover, very important, the respond and recover especially, as well as the governance. And that is backed by our ransomware recovery guarantee. Again, first and only storage vendor to do so. So just before we go to take a look at, what does this all look like? I just want to touch very quickly on these 6 areas of the NIST framework, because we're focusing specifically on the security cyber resiliency piece. But the identification piece is just as important. Built into our storage platform, we have a classification engine. That classification engine looks at and classifies your data to tell you what is, for example, business and non-business data. What is files with open permissions to your organization, closed permissions, or even open permissions to the public. This all forms part of a data-centric security view. It'll also tell you where you have sensitive and personal information, where you may want to categorize that data into a more strict security bucket, where you have these extra controls in place, because some of your data may be classified or unclassified as public data. Then we get to the protection. So enabling our tamper-proof snapshots is a simple one-click operation. We tick anti-ransomware protection and the engine kicks in and it starts doing its job. And that job is to constantly watch all of the activity in box, backed by our AI-driven capability in real time with that super high accuracy to detect when an attack happens. And this is the most important part, the automated response. The only other way snapshots or backups happen is through scheduling. We schedule them to run on frequencies where we want to have recovery point and recovery time objectives. The only other way a snapshot is triggered is through some sort of intelligent reaction or a fast automated response to an attack. And most importantly, if that attack has happened and it has compromised the system, you need to be able to recover. And what does orchestrated recovery mean? Well, if it's a few files on a volume, that could be a simple, straightforward volume restore. But what if it's a number of different users impacted, a number of different applications across multiple volumes? The recovery process can be quite complex, which we orchestrate and automate. Now, all of this needs to be wrapped around with the governance. So that monitoring dashboard that gives you that information live to see what workloads you've got where and what may or may not be impacted is going to show you what your cyber resilience posture is looking like across all of these scenarios. Okay, so we're at a time where it's, okay, Gonzo, great story. Let's see it in action. So what I'll do right now, I'll just get a quick nod that I've still got folks, online on board, and we're ready to switch to demo mode. So let's do that now. Okay.
A couple of thumbs up.
Oh, you're coming through loud and clear, Graham. Nice to hear you, mate. I think we were having some audio issues earlier, but
I had to change devices.
Cool. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do first is I want to show you very quickly what our user experience actually looks like. And so I'm now sharing my screen. So you'll see everything, warts and all, and all the other stuff that's going on. In fact, I will close my Outlook because that is bound to go off a million times while we're in here. Now, what I've done is, can you see my screen, Graham? Everything coming through? Yeah.
All good.
Cool. All right, I'm going to have to, oh, there we go. Minimize this because it wasn't letting me see my screen. Okay, so this is what you see when you log into our user experience. We call it the NetApp console, console.netapp.com. And I'm in my simulated environment here. So I'll jump over to show you what a blank one would look like. And as you can see, I've already got a failed instance here. So I'm showing you warts and all. But under the menu, if I go to storage and management, I end up on this canvas and I have this little add button. And when I click this add button, I can see 4 locations. Am I discovering a storage appliance that I've purchased and installed on-prem, or am I going to discover or deploy environments in hyperscalers? So you can see a true hybrid multi-cloud platform starting with that storage foundational layer. We need somewhere with data first. Now, if I discover an on-prem instance, all it's going to ask me for is a management IP and a username and password. Now, some of the more eagle-eyed folks would be going here, okay, how does a SaaS-based platform discover an on-premises instance? We do this through the concept of connectors, and those connectors will connect to, and in this scenario, it's failed, so obviously live demo, warts and all, but they will discover and add them to the canvas. And we rely heavily on our partner communities, such as Accucom, to do the plumbing, to do the networking, maybe even get you set up in your hyperscaler environments and your cloud environments. So what I'm going to do is switch back to my simulator. And I don't know how to move this Teams control thing up the top here. And once you have a discovered environment, here, what I've prepared earlier, where I've got a number of on-prem instances and some cloud instances. You can do some pretty powerful stuff with the NetApp platform. Like, for example, if I want to migrate from on-prem to a cloud environment, I can drag and drop, and here it says enable this service, or I can migrate between 2 data centers or between clouds as well. There's a number of different ways that I can interact with this, but of course, we're here for the security side. So under our menu, you'll notice protection and ransomware resilience. Now here in my ransomware resilience, I'll go ahead and start my free trial. And straight away it's found I've got systems with agents and systems with no agents. What I'm going to do is look at my on-prem systems. I'm going to tick those, select all pages and hit discover. So now it's going to go on and find my on-prem systems. You can see it's in progress and discovering, yep, successfully found 2 on-prem systems. And I jump to my dashboard. So what this has immediately done is looked at those systems, found some volumes on there, and it's telling me that I have a number of systems that are at risk. Some are already protected. If we create a volume in NetApp today, that volume will have automatically snapshots on and anti-ransomware protection on by default. So this is what these protected volumes would be. The ones that are at risk may be manually deactivated, could be older volumes, imported volumes. There's a number of things. So down here we see recommended actions, and we can see the different I guess, suggestions for our security posture. Things like enabling backups, things like enabling to protect critical workloads. We've discovered that there might be some data on there that classifies as personal or sensitive. And then down here we can see workload data, backups, and user activity. So we see a kind of ransomware resiliency on a page, on a dashboard that's doing a whole bunch of things. In terms of the storage itself, and I'm going to have to minimize and maximize here. Here's a an environment that I created earlier, and I'll just put that into full screen. Hopefully that, okay, no, it doesn't want to go full screen today. I'll just log into our user experience of what a typical NetApp environment looks like. I'll just log into our user experience here. And you can see this is live, no smoke and mirrors, warts and all.
While Chris is logging in, if anyone does have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or even just take yourself off mute and put them out here. I do apologise we didn't get the full introduction earlier because I had some audio issues and other Teams-related challenges.
So good timing to introduce yourself, Graham. I don't think I did you proper justice.
Correct.
And
I think most people do know who I am. Graham Lowbridge. I lead the sales and marketing function at Accucom. Chris obviously is a techie with manners. He's from NetApp, one of the senior solution architects over at NetApp. And I'm trying to remember what my username is. I think it's user@lab.netapp.com. No, log on failed. Bear with me, folks. I'm a little rusty on this one. I'm trying to remember where the
Gonzo, click the double click the tick button on the desktop.
Thank you.
You all right?
All right. I
Just
have
in
this
the desktop.
Yeah,
there you go. That autocomplete.
And here we go. My user
accounts.
There we go.
There you go.
I was looking for it in the, so it's user@demo. I think I had user@demo.netapp.com. Here we go.
Demos and children and animals. Who are the challenges?
Okay, almost there, folks. Almost there. Promise it gets more interesting from here. All right, so here we are in my canvas. As you can see, my storage canvas there. I'm now going to enter the working environment of my cluster 1 here. And, so I've got some rudimentary things that I can do here. I've got an overview of this cluster. I can look at the volumes in this cluster, and I can see I've got a couple of volumes there. And you'll see a little button up here called System Manager. So if my console is the broader view of my entire data estate across hybrid multi-cloud, System Manager is what we use when we log into a very specific appliance. And you can do this even with our cloud-based instances. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight into storage and volumes. And I'm just trying to remember which one of my volumes are we going to do a ransomware attack on. Let's go
marketing.
to is it our marketing one, right? Correct. I'm not going to increase the so in legal we go to switch on the anti-ransomware, but in marketing, and it's always marketing, right? You know those guys, they're untrustworthy. All right, I'll just go to legal first very quick because everything we do in NetApp is a storage virtual machine. If you're familiar with actual virtual machines like VMware, it's the same way that we logically divide one of our clusters. And you see we've got a security tab here and an anti-ransomware setting. I'll enable it on the storage virtual machine legal, and you can see I can pause the anti-ransomware. I've got some characteristics here, and what I like about the workload characteristics is this is where you have control of the machine learning. You can actually set your entropy rate. You can set things like the surges in file rename operations, right? And when you think about a cyber attack, renaming files to .locked extensions and stuff like that, monitoring new file types, I won't allow 5 new extensions in 48 hours. You see you've got a lot of control over the security settings in the anti-ransomware. So let's go to marketing, where we created one earlier, and we have anti-ransomware. It's enabled in active mode. We used to have a learning mode, but the reason we changed it to automatically active is we had enough of a pre-trained model globally to know what these ransomware attacks look like. We got to the level of accuracy where we're now so confident that you can just switch it on immediately day one. In fact, from 9.17.1, we have it on by default. We just want to assume you create a volume, you want protection with that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and run an attack on my marketing folder. And if I look at the marketing share right now, let's have a look. We've got some files there. They're already getting renamed to .locked from PDF, .locked. All right. You can see it's renaming all of these files, and live as we refresh, we're seeing .locked. Won't be long before all of the files are locked. Few files remaining. So I'm going to stop that script, that attack script, and we can see our files have been renamed .locked extensions. I'll jump back here to snapshots, and you can see an anti-ransomware backup snapshot has been created. And to prove that it's now, it says November 27, 12:37 a.m. At the time of where this demo lab environment is, 12:38 a.m. We see an anti-ransomware snapshot has been taken. So the system works. It detected an attack, it reacted to it, and it's done a snapshot. So the first step to recovery is, well, let's just hit refresh here and go, okay, we want to bring those files back. So let's go here to restore. And it will say the corresponding volume will be restored with the selected snapshot. This is a hardware revert, right? No data has been moved anywhere. These are all copy on redirect snapshots that are happening. So I'll hit restore. And the restore happens instantly because it's a revert from a snapshot. I'll come back in here and hit refresh, and we can see a lot of our files, if not all of our files, have been successfully restored to their right extensions. However, 2 files here still showing .locked. Now, this is because our autonomous ransomware protection is super fast, but it's not instant. Okay, it's watching activity, and sometimes it'll take even a couple of microseconds to detect some kind of attack. Might be one that we know, or it might be one that we've never seen before. So what happens here is, well, by default, volumes are automatically set up to snap, and you can set your own intervals of snaps. Turns out we have a snapshot that was created at a 20-minute interval back at 12:20 a.m. So I could go into this snapshot and I could restore it there, but then I would lose any changes. I only want those 2 files that didn't make it. Everyone who's worked with NetApp will know this little tilde snapshot folder actually is a representation of all your snapshots. You can mount it and read it like a file system. So I can actually go in here, go into that snapshot, and I can find those 2 files. No, they're still locked there. Let's go to an earlier snapshot and not locked in here. And we can just copy and paste the files back into the root volume, overwriting the .locked files. Now, I know we've only got a couple of minutes left in the demonstration. There is one more thing I'd like to very quickly show you, which is the not just the autonomous ransomware protection capability built into the box, but we did talk about those sophisticated cyber attacks. And this is where we use a data infrastructure insights capability. And this can look at any NetApp environment on-prem, any NetApp environment that's running Cloud Volumes ONTAP in cloud, as well as a couple of the cloud first services that we have. And we call this storage workload security. And what you'll notice in storage workload security is that I can go back to significant periods of time over time. And I can see that during this time, it's found a number of different warnings, and these will be anomaly detections. And the reds are the attacks themselves specifically. So I can see ransomware attacks happened. And if I see what was the evidence, files encrypted. If I get down to anomaly detections, we can see fluctuations of user activity rates. This one was, 112,000%. You can see that action taken was a snapshot. If we go into that specific scenario, we're still at the alert, and we can see that at about 12 p.m. in a very short period of time, there was 112,000% fluctuation. We can actually look at the activity of what this user or perhaps the hijacked account was doing. And if I log into it, into that activity, you'll notice that we've jumped to forensics now. We're actually studying what happened. We've got a whole list of the activities, creates, deletes, renames, etc., all in a very short period of time. And we can actually export this data to a CSV. You can see there's the export in progress. So a couple of things we've looked at there, a very holistic view of a data platform with lots of capabilities. That foundational data platform has some inherent security built into it, which is the anti-ransomware protection, amongst other things, including multi-admin verification. And then you've got some very sophisticated user and entity behavior analysis that allows you to look at activities that are triggering attacks or potential anomalies. And then lastly, we've got these countermeasures, these automated response policies that say, if an attack happens based on deletion, destruction, or ransomware, do some sort of activity, take a snapshot, block that user. Do we want to give them, the night to sleep it off, maybe come back in the morning and see if it was an honest mistake, or do we want to block them permanently until a multi-admin verification comes in to help recover that data? So with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining the webinar today. Quick summary of what we spoke about: autonomous ransomware protection, tamper-proof snapshots. We did an attack, we recovered from the attack. Didn't get to show you the multi-admin verification. It's definitely built in there. You can create groups, users, and did some data forensics with what the system detected as an attack or as an anomaly. So with that, I'll switch it over back to Graham, our host, and thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris, for the quite comprehensive overview. I just did want to mention one final point, which I think is worthy of some attention. We live in a very much hybrid cloud-driven world, and the really cool thing about the technology that NetApp is able to offer is it's either on-prem, in the cloud, it's an Azure, AWS, etc., or it can be hybrid. And the unique part of that is that the software that drives the storage is actually the same no matter where it happens to be hosted. I know a lot of organisations, schools in particular, excuse me, are moving down that hybrid path, and that's where the story that NetApp is able to share is very valid. So, unless there's any further questions, there doesn't appear to be any at this point. What I'd like to suggest is that if you do have some further interest, and from Accucom, we'll reach out and have a chat with you just to determine that as well. We can come on site or catch up by Teams and do a more detailed assessment of what your needs might look like over the next little while. So any further closing words, Chris, or we might wrap it up there?
Look, the only closing words from me is Accucom is your trusted advisor, trusted partner. They very well versed and skilled in the NetApp portfolio. So not just NetApp, but from a systems integration perspective. So you're absolutely right, Graham. On-prem, in cloud, everything in between, hybrid multi, if you want to call it that, is the capability. But the best implementation and adoption with your other existing technologies, whether you want to get off VMware or you want to improve your security posture or you want to, just overall modernize your data infrastructure, speak to the folks at Accucom.
Thanks, guys. Speak soon.
Cheers. All the best.